So Zeri's locked in. I actually wonder if you can take the Lulu away. You can actually play a couple of different Lulu lanes right now, one of them being Aphelios. You actually can play towards that if you so wish. But either way, Zeri is kind of edging towards more of the late game scaling, a bit more of that late game insurance, which FPX sort of lacked in that last game. This is what I was wondering about, that hover. See if it gets locked in. It is.
There it is.
If you're going to pick that Zeri, we've seen this more and more. We've actually seen this a lot from an LPL alumni playing overseas now. Loken, who's now currently playing in Japan, he's playing on the best team in the region there right now, in Sengoku. He's been playing an awful lot of Aphelios into lanes like this and making the most of it. But actually, as it stands, the Aphelios is just going to be locked in alone right now. Maybe leaving the Zeri Lulu to go through and then threatening something like a Thresh later on, which can be very much a kill lane, which takes over that half of the map. Instead, choosing to bring in the Vi again for the CC combo.
Yeah, and trying to lock down Lwx on this area. We've seen it as an answer in there, and that lockdown will be beneficial. Now, I do wonder that kind of response. We can expect a little bit of a jungle matchup here being picked through. And Wukong was the choice last time. Didn't necessarily have those kind of crazy, aggressive, unique pass. He kind of was quiet earlier on, maybe more quiet than I wanted to see Hacker, but will be the Wukong and the Lulu locked in for FPX here.
So the Lulu, that's the obvious lock-in. That's this kind of slam it in. Wonder if you lock in the Thresh here, just lock up the Thresh Aphelios. It allows you to get away from something like the Wukong as well. So Hacker, if they had a quiet game in that first game, despite, you know, I found probably the loudest moment which Hacker had was getting caught out in that top river, which led to the eventual kind of blue side jungle loss.
Game-winning player.
Yeah, the game-losing play for Hacker on that side.
For FPX at least. It is the Nautilus, though.
It is the Nautilus, yeah, because I was wondering if we were going to see the Thresh because it saw a lot of buffs on this patch where it's much better if you max death sentence now as opposed to your Lantern, which kind of allows you to be very good at kind of locking up people that kind of dive into you. It is going to be much more the fight level 1 into reliable engage combo of the Nautilus being locked in though. This changed the way this lane
I'm upset.
Is it the Dragon Ban again?
It is the Dragon Ban. But more so because my like ears to the ground tell me that it's actually not that great of a pick. So I really wanted to see it, but we don't get it. We get that Vigar ban though, and a lot of mid lane focus from FPX again.
There are okay. We'll talk about. I really want to talk about it when it gets locked in, but it's not the worst.
One day, Nymaera. Look at the far future.
You just need a bit of time to come online and get 2-3 items, and particularly with something with very heavy CC combos. It can work pretty well with people buying space to you. You do need people to buy a little bit of space, which is exactly what TT are doing for the Aphelios in this comp. Kind of bring it back to the picks that we have on the board. Gragas casks gonna be in the equation again. Vialt, Nautilus kind of throwing himself into the fray. FPX. You're reaching a point now where there is so much ability to disrupt your engage, and you don't have that much engage already at this point, that Aphelios is going to do some pretty dirty things. Mordekaiser locked in, though. Is that the first Mordekaiser of LPL this year?
I don't know.
I don't know. You know, I'm going to quickly check that.
Yeah,
that's a big pick
because that is a series-changing pick right here, potentially, with something to kind of have a little bit more onus to pull away pieces from TT if needed in these teamfights and just dissuade a lot of that. We do see the Annie going back for care, though, so dipping back to the well for FPX, but still a lot better setup, it feels like.
Mordekaiser game. This is our second Mordekaiser game, so it's not going to be our very first one locked in. It's going to be alongside the Annie. So that's a bit more ability to finesse your way through these team fights. You have some more engage coming in again. Care picking up the engage from the mid lane. But then Fearness on the Mordekaiser, you can pick apart one of these champions from TT and take them out of the equation. So with Mordekaiser as they build currently, to my understanding, you go Jack Shows and Rylai's, and it is just a really disgusting combo on this champion, which means that even champions like the Aphelios, they get closed down, they get slowed for forever, and they can't really kill the tankier version of Mordekaiser than we've seen in the past. It's not going to be stuff like the Riftmaker, which we've seen. Well, actually, it might be. We'll see what happens on the Rift, but that's just the build which I've been seeing a bit more. We see the Gwen coming in on the other side, though, and that's a very important lock-in because that's a champion which Mordekaiser does not want to bring into the Death Realm. You don't want to bring them into the Thunderdome because good luck with the CC combo with the mid-jungle.
Love to see a little bit of adaptation here from FPX as we hit the Rift for the second time. It's FPX versus TT. FPX in a desperate need of a win here with a bit of a change in composition and some late game insurance policies.
On the other side, TT, if they were to win this game, go to 6-4 in series, get themselves a bit of that buffer. And that actually sees them into a position where they are, you know, they're very much playoff hopefuls at that point. You expect to see them in playoffs with the number of series remaining, even though there are, what, 6 series or so. Care walking up, gonna get belly slammed here if he slams out there. I was worried about that, but Care is gonna get away with that one. Takes a decent trade back.
Space Groove Gragas. Love it.
Well, there's your space skin. Didn't have that last game.
But it's not the same. I feel like you got to have it on par with like the black
I'm
hole
sorry, it's like,
style.
oh, imagine if there
space,
is
but
a
it's different
space. No, not like that.
It's
that
the
so
same but
Mazel.
different line, but it's space, but different. I got him, folks.
I'm just saying, sometimes you can't be picky. In this game, though, Ucal had his pick of the litter, chose to give his top laner. Actually, yeah, honestly, good guy, Ucal, using the flex potential to kind of take the Gragas into the mid lane.
This is a 12th pick, unique pick, by the way. He's just adding to his repertoire. Also trying to outdo Hoya. Like, yo, my casts are better.
Things like, I was taking the really positive slant. It's like, you know what? I'll take the Gragas this time. You can have something a little bit different on the top side. You can have the carry this time. You can play the Gwen. I had some decent damage numbers the last time. Actually, saying about that, Hoya actually topped the damage.
I was gonna say,
so that's not quite true. Okay, so that's me kind of going down the rabbit hole of like the narrative I want to paint of these players. Just completely just.
What you're saying is copium here, Nymaera. That's just
100%. I'm a connoisseur of the copium. You know, I actually
you should connect. I've got a hopium emporium. I don't know about you. You have a copium
so what
emporium?
I actually have like a drinking horn, but I've put like a little post-it note on it, which says, you know about the cornucopia? You know, like like the drinking horn from which like all good things come. So I have a cornucopium, so that's when I'm having a particularly bad day. That's what I drink out of.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I do want to go back and focus on this bottom lane a little bit. We do see some priority given by Lwx and JoJo. Both junglers heading down towards this bottom side of the map. And I do wonder where we get some of that proactivity that we said we wanted from Hacker. We're maybe not as much of a reliance on this in game number 2 so far.
So, Fearness Nautilus can play more aggressively at the level 1 mark than some other Aphelios lanes. Aphelios isn't really a champion until you hit level 2, so you don't actually have an ability until you hit that level. You can only switch between weapons, but both junglers now on this bot side of the map, level 4 to level 3. That'd be an important breakpoint.
That's what I wanted to see, though.
Does not have smite for that scuttle crab. It does seem like, oh, good order cancel.
Little engage there, but nice polymorph back on the Huanfeng. It's kind of the trade-off we'll see is Beichuan actually hovering down here. Come over the wall of the ward. Is it going to spot him? It goes down.
Just timed out. Is he going to head over?
Oh, he's over the wall, but he doesn't get it. That's the kill of the ward. He came and got some pity prizes.
Yeah. So,
back away.
Very early levels. Don't have the Q cooldown to quite turn it around with that kind of time mark, but really like how you played that last Nautilus hook, by the way. So if you use your passive auto, you can kind of hide your hook animation slightly by kind of going through the big wind-up and then something else is there. Winding up towards top lane, though. Hoya's in a bit of trouble.
Hoya is in definitely some trouble trying to be immune, and is so. I thought this happens later on in the game, but apparently it's at 4.5 minutes.
Gotcha. So, Hoya, Dennis, both burning that ghost. You got a big trade. He didn't want to take the best of that one. Has his passive coming back up to regen, bits and pieces, but both these junglers have angles into both these solo lanes now.
Ucal does not have vision up here. Hacker, shit, if he steps up, Ucal will die here. He will get a bit of a greedy bag.
Oh, Ucal, no.
Yeah, he's got to know.
Oh, there is a red ping on that bush. There is a red ping on that bush.
Yeah.
They absolutely are. In fact, what Ucal's doing that
what are
is
those little things?
participating in some shenanigans, in a bit of tomfoolery, one might say.
That back animation is legendary, but I really wish we could have gotten a little bit of zoom in on that.
I actually haven't seen that. I've seen a couple of, we've had a couple of times in the LPL this split where we've had like zoom ins on some of the back animations. One of my favorite ones is the Fright Night Draven skin. Like the basic Tim Burton, but make it Draven.
Yep.
Also, just like, part of me just wants to call him Chainsaw Man because he's just juggling chainsaws, but I'm not sure that actually fits the actual aesthetic of that meme. But yeah, Ucal just wasting a bit of time from Hacker. One thing that you were asking for, and I very much agree, Hacker does have some options to go aggressive in this early game, particularly as Vi, Wukong. It's actually a fairly interactive jungle matchup. Both of them can duel each other fairly impactfully. No one's really landed any big knockup blows though. We're hitting these first ultimates of the game coming through from solo laners. Will be starting to come through the bot lanes at some point too. Fearness having a much more interactive laning phase than the very last time as well. It's not tank versus tank. Spider versus Fighter. Just really waiting though to see where these junglers end up kind of making the first blows. Because at this point, you've gone through your first couple of clears, all your camps are down, or rather, like, they're starting to get to the point where junglers can kind of, like, craft their paths to turn up in a lot of places at different times. Really is up to these teams to kind of keep vision control up so these junglers don't have an easy job getting into these lanes.
And we saw TT putting a lot of vision in game number 1 around this bottom side, having a lot of vision control around river and things like that. Not as much so as early on as we saw, but here's the engaged bottom side. Beichuan not going in just yet. We'll take the little bit of a heat of warning from Lwx's shots. And Hacker was actually right around the corner, so TT get away with something.
Yeah, so xinliu, Beichuan looking to make a play around the utility guns of Aphelios.
Nice splash from Care. That would have been really, really rough.
Ucal has been flexing the muscles a lot this series. He's been doing all split.
I was about to say all split, man.
Yeah, particularly in this series as well. Making his individual presence known. But yeah, it's just kind of going back to this point I was making just before that play in mid lane. You often want to make plays around Aphelios' weapon timings. You have a pretty standard combination which you go through, which will kind of rotate between 2 or 3 big combos. One of which is your Infernum and your Graviton, which is, you know, your AoE and get your utility from those groups weapons as well. And then this is the other one. Sever and Crescendum come up. It's a lot of sustain, a lot of ability to very quickly stack turrets, your chakrams really. And then after that, you're looking to see what you can do with something like a Caliber. This is the perfect weapons to fight around if Huanfeng is going to do damage once a member's heading full plus side.
Oh, Hacker's over the wall. The FPX will move forward here to try to contest this dragon. No ulti from Ucal. Cares on the back, about to have the Tipper stun. We'll walk into Beichuan. He goes forward with the flash there. Nothing really falling. There's the CC lockdown as Hacker should secure that dragon. But TT have come for the kill, and that was first blood.
To the first game where Care died for pretty much nothing, that's still a dragon going over the side of FPX. It is in Dragon's worth of stats as well, which is never going to go amiss in a pro game. Those extra resists do come through very, very clutch. And I think if TT had taken that ultimate with level 6s on jungle, AD carry support, that fight goes very, very differently, particularly if you have a Moonlight Vigil on that Aphelios to change things up. But as it stands, it feels like TT kind of like didn't have the staying power. They just blown all these flashes. So you're going to look for anything after this point. With half health bars across the board as well, very difficult to kind of like stick.
Poor Care didn't even get to use the timbers.
No, but that means he has it again, which is actually probably to their advantage at this point. TT during that the kind of reset plays, they do actually end up picking up that Herald. We'll have to see where they end up picking that towards. I'd imagine that goes towards your Aphelios. Good Aphelios. Very strong point of power. Cass still doesn't have flash, by the way.
Cease and desist, there it is. The cask as well. And this time, K, you ain't got flash to get out of this one. They will continue to put the hurt on the FPX mid laner. 2 kills or 2 deaths. And now TT up 2-0.
Starting to understand the phrase devil may care. We'll have to see how the devil thinks of that champion in the death chamber once more, because Care really has just been put under the bus so many times by TT. First game, Vega, of course, adding to those woes, but you're getting to the point now where Ucal's going to have a lot of gold once again, and we saw the Gragas top the damage shots just before this.
Hacker's been sitting here for so long. The engage comes through here. Huanfeng locked up, CC down and taken down. Lwx on the board, and FPX 2.
Yeah, so Hacker was in that bush. It's kind of unfortunate. Huanfeng burns both summoners, doesn't get to use his ultimate, doesn't have the ability to turn around something like a Steverum. That wasn't the weapon that he had. And now Lwx, 10 CS ahead, gets to crash in for a plate, gets to keep stacking up that pull, which they bought as well. Lwx doesn't have the same problems of the last game where you have to play around the one-up combo, otherwise you're going to get outscaled, you're going to get outvalued. This Zeri, getting this amount of gold, gives FPX something to play around in the mid game.
It does, and we said for them, you know, it's about not getting ran over and let your carries do what they do, and especially Lwx on this Zeri. The last remaining world champion member on the FPX roster. This man has seen those highs. We're looking for those late season pushes from the veteran of FPX.
Back towards this mid lane matchup though, that's where a lot of the plays have been made so far. Ucal stacking up towards that Rod of Ages. Care of course doing the same, but it's going to be a little further behind. Less golden pocket at this time. TT though, still fairly in control of things as it stands. Have themselves a gold lead. Top side of the map going very well for them. CS leads in both their solo lanes. Of course, the kill advantage into the jungle as well. And they still have this Herald to put down. So really looking for next. You see that wave crash in this bot side. You need to be very careful at responding to wave crashes as FPX at this point, particularly with Herald in inventory. You have xinliu able to start off fights very, very effectively, and Beichuan, of course, with the ult as well from that Vi. With the Herald still up and available, FPX need to be playing on reactionary duty for the time being.
I love that we see about 1,000 gold lead there for Lwx just from those plates and the kill going over as well. And this is where I feel like FPX are in a much different position than they were in game number 1, where you still had some potential for picks and stuff in the late game. They're okay with taking some of these kind of backseat moments earlier on here since they do have Lwx on the Zeri. And I'm wondering, especially once we get kind of this more focus towards the team fights and maybe a little bit more stacking from FPX here in a minute for another Dragon, how TT kind of respond in that team fight potential here. Obviously, Hoya trying to come online, Ucal with that spacing, but Huanfeng specifically.
Well, Huanfeng
don't do it.
would really
Don't
like
do
his
it.
first
Just
time.
don't do it.
Just
Just don't do it.
He's probably gonna have to blow it if he. Yeah, really just hasn't had an easy time. TT have just been not content to let him sit under this turret alone. FPX on the other side haven't really ever been in position to defend Care under this turret, which is
it was from that
problem,
flank from game 1. They remember that very much so.
Never again. It is going to be the Herald putting that towards his mid lane though, so I suppose the case scenario for FPX probably avoid, which is giving a load of gold over to the Aphelios and kind of break it up with 4 or 5 plays with a kind of a dive play involved as well. But still, gold over to Ucal is scary. You know what Ucal can do.
Yeah.
He's given an advantage in one of these games. Ucal has been so important to his team. We cannot state that enough.
That's what I was going to say. Just being able to see them give some resource here because we know what Ucal can do as a whole. xinliu in some trouble here. Does have the flash, get over the wall. Nice combo with the dredge line. Cyclone did come out and we get the response from TT on the top side. Nice knockdown from Fearness. He does have Beichuan. See if he can take him out. Though the shielding Beichuan can't get out. It'll be the trade back and Fearness gets one trying to flash for the Timbers. Can't find it and doesn't have the damage on Ucal.
Oh, big whiff from Care on that ultimate would have been really important to get yourself 2 kills out of that play. Would have actually been a win on both sides of the map. I mean, I guess barely so. You don't get a kill on that bot side when you were going for your own big play as Hacker, but at least you get the flash away from xinliu. You get yourself that Dragon, but close run stuff. Diving in Mordekaiser, folks. He doesn't make it into a 1v3. It's always going to be a 1v1 for a certain amount of time to finish. Walking away with a kill. Important in that situation. FPX still kind of hanging on in that gold lead. They have themselves, or rather, holding on to kind of like a just 1k behind in the gold so far. And when you're picking up objectives on the other side of the map like this, Mordekaiser is so happy to take these kind of situations. He sat there and goes, yeah, sure, dive me. Why do I care? I'm going to be able to outplay these situations at the best of times, and my team is still getting something on the other side of this, despite the whips.
Despite the whips. Care just trying to hone in on that Tibbers combo there. Won't be able to find it just yet. Now we do see bottom side though. There was actually a little bit of movement from xinliu and Hoya. Trying to take down the outer tower down there as quickly as possible. We still don't have first tower taken on the map. We do have another Rift Herald coming up here. And maybe an adaptation of focus, Nymaera.
Potentially. Because of course both these well, we've got turrets up across the board right now. Second Herald gives you gold when you kill it. Like gives them local gold for actually just killing the objective, which of course it didn't do a number of years ago. But in this case, when you have very low health outer turrets like this, you really don't want to be giving those second Heralds out for free. Even if you can sit here and wave clear as an AD carry, Herald kind of forces the issue. So both these teams kind of wary of what that kind of Herald could do for themselves or against them in this case. So mid lane pry out, it's the name of the game. Get that mid lane pry out, head up towards that Herald.
At least TT's objective here. A little bit of bounce back from FPX though. It looks like Rift Herald is already started. Hacker will get a little bit of vision, maybe a collapse here possible for FPX.
Yep. So FPX are pushing in on bot side right now. They're not teleporting in Fearness just yet. He wants to get some bot lane pry, get their wave into turret, but this doesn't mean it's going to be late to the play.
He's going to come in, does have the Realm of Death available. He tried to just pull in Hoya or something along those lines, but the Rift Herald still be taken down. Slowly but surely. Beichuan just waiting over the wall with the blast cone. Hacker goes in, takes a couple snips to the face. TT backing out of this one, letting the Rift Herald reset. Hacker going back over the wall. Nope, it will go over to FPX as Beichuan with that little jump and skip will not make it in time.
I think that TT just very afraid to jump into the Mordekaiser, jump into the Wukong ultimate as well. Feels a little bit dangerous at that point. And FPX, At least they managed to sort out their waves a little bit before this. It does mean that Fearness gets to push a wave into turret, so it's not just getting the Herald for them. They get that Herald, they manage to push in a wave bot side. Now they get to, of course, the big thing for them actually with this is that TT don't have the Herald to slam into their own mid turret. I feel like that was kind of what they were trying to avoid. As long as you can keep that mid lane out of turret, gives you some extra ability to play around some of these dragons, some of these objectives. Heading towards this top side now.
They're seeing first. Oh, right through the middle. I thought the belly was bigger than that, Ucal. He goes down straight up to Hacker.
So I think Ucal didn't see Hacker until he'd already cast his E. Then he splits the uprights, goes right between both of them, goes the full distance of the body slam. Way into enemy territory. Hacker takes that one out for free.
I gotta get a measurement on that belly, man. We gotta get a Taylor in here and see what happened right there. That was actually nuts.
Yeah. What that means is that normally when you lose a kill like that, when Herald is on the other side of the board, you're kind of risking a really big power play coming from that Herald. Not gonna be the case in this particular junction, but still, TT. Once again, getting to a point where it feels like they have a pretty okay early game, but then the mid game is where they start to find some awkward moments. Gonna go through this replay. Yeah, it's just rough, buddy. It's just rough to the left.
Feels bad, man. Feels bad, man. Hoya's just saying that, hey, they're giving me the Gragas. I don't know. It's just sitting there. We do see towers getting so low for FPX. See if any push comes through for TT. We do have another dragon spawning in 50 seconds, and I definitely see TT trying to put the brakes on this stacking of FPX.
Yeah, we'll have to do that sooner than later, if at all possible. Ocean Rift, when you got something like a Mordekaiser and Lulu keeping people alive, it's very, very dangerous. But Hoya, you can just ignore.
He could just take this and maybe we can kill Hacker. I mean, Fearness is on his way. It will be faded out a little bit. The needle work. I'm pretty confident. Clear the rest of that vision
Fearness
down there, though. Yep. Always.
With
always.
20 seconds till Dragon. No Gwen ult available. Important tool to keep track of. FPX aren't going to have control of the bot side of the map just yet. They're going to have to walk through enemy vision. But without that needle work, again, I feel like TT lacking some ability to fight here.
They're all together this time, though. FPX together strong. Rift Herald is dropped rather in the mid lane. Should be a push from FPX to try to get this one.
I think they can just pin Aphelios into lane here. You see that Huanfeng is trying to get rid of this Infernum so we can actually get around to a 7 for Shenron combo again, get those chakras spinning up, but it's not going to be there in time. TT, I think, with the needle work down, with mid lane priority kind of going against them, choose to give this one up. Now is not the time. Would have been lovely to stop that stacking if at all possible, but you don't want to throw away the game for it. Don't have your second items yet, maybe that's the time, but they're putting themselves in a little bit of timer here as well.
Oh my god. Well, 2 people came to your house, they took everything you had, Jojo.
It's daylight robbery in the spot size. Hellpot's coming in.
They're getting Hoya down involved in this one. Hacker coming here to help out Fearness. The Death Realm is used on Beichuan, but here he comes out of it, and now the damage down on Fearness as well. He tries to get one back. Can he get it? No, he can't. Hoya gets that second kill of the game for himself.
It's just a little bit of the lapse in judgment again from FPX. Jojo had no right walking that close to Fog of War. Ucal picks him off with his jungler. Once again, TT's mid-jungle stepping up when the big plays need to be made. And FPX going to lose complete control over the spot side of the map. They do have themselves a solve point still. They're still in a good point in this game still. But those kind of mistakes, they make you question things. Mazel, they make you question things. Because TT, you don't need that many mistakes to take some big kills, head towards Baron if that play happens any later into the game.
Get a replay of the insta-death by Chocho into a bit of a scuffle in bottom lane that Fearness did not want a part of, but ended up being forced to get invite of.
Yeah, I mean, just walking that close to Fog of War as an enchanter, sometimes you can fool yourself into thinking that you can ward and survive very healthily as someone like a Lulu or a Soraka or a Janna or something like that. When you have a combo like this Gragas fight, very hard to get away from them if you enter their active range. That's exactly what they do in their
They're just looking for picks at this point.
And that's exactly what they should do. Absolutely happy to do so. Trying to get that vision control up, deny that kind of anti-flank that we saw almost be game-breaking in that first game. So vision control actually been very solid from TT across the board, allowed them that pick on that bot side. Trying to maintain that vision up here. They actually go towards the Baron again. This is where they kind of struggled in this first game. They couldn't really make the most of these Baron baits, but they have a lot more Baron DPS this time around.
We'll see if that does have anything to say about it. They re-engaged onto the clone there as the cease and desist went onto the real one, but there's Fearness in the back going. He has found Huanfeng, and you have a little bit of a team fight brewing. Huanfeng gets away for just a little bit, but now he's going to be left out by himself. He has flashed away, and he has no way out of this. His teammates have left him to dry. The cast, it's not enough, and FPX, they are having themselves a time in front of this Baron pit.
Oh, TT, they just haven't made the most of these Baron baits. They force FPX to come towards them, and it feels like there's a split call. Hoya stays on the Baron. Beichuan goes forward, tries to look for an engage, and through the midst of things, Fearness manages to get, somehow, without a flash, onto the Aphelios. I don't know if there was a cast that... No, of course it wasn't the cast. That was right at the end. It was cast. But Huanfeng ends up in the realm of death against the Mordekaiser without the weapons to do the job, nor the item completions to see off the deal as well. So FPX, despite them making some mistakes around that bot side of the map, giving up a couple of kills, they are the ones which are coming out again around this kind of Baron play. Could we see a replay from this? See what we're talking about here. Hoya kind of dashes backwards, goes back towards the Baron, is not in place to really put down the DPS, whereas Fearness is. Fearness is the person who's kind of making the difference, and Huanfeng has to use all of his mobility to try and get away from the Mordekaiser. There's no way out of the fight after that point.
Now we're seeing the slow and steady rise of FPX here. They do almost have 3 items already on Lwx. And definitely Huanfeng a little bit far behind in that respect, but it's just that kind of decisiveness that we saw a very big lack of in game number 1 that we're actually getting a little bit of here at 22, 23 minutes in for FPX.
We also just didn't see TT being able to give the resources to Huanfeng as well, who of course was our MVP from that first game. Now sat at 0-2, only just hit that second item when Lwx is heading well on towards his third at this point. This Aphelios Nautilus, very different kind of combination when the Aphelios is given a load of turret plates, able to crush through towers. TT, right. I mean, they really want to keep doing this, huh? They really want to keep doing this.
Is that the difference maker?
Maybe it is, but...
like, I don't have flash, guys. We gotta try to find an in-game, maybe on the hacker. They do. Moonlight Vigil in, but look at the double stun from Care! And the Ultra Shock Laser with the help from Fearness! FPX have done it yet again, and TT, they're running away.
TT are just throwing themselves at the Baron and hoping it's going to work out, but FPX, they hold them to account. Care holds them to account, gets right on top of Huanfeng. This Aphelios, who had the right weapons, just hit the 2. Oh my god, leave it alone! Stop!
Oh my god, and here comes FPX. He's like, we don't need our 4th dragon. We can just fight you on your Baron play here that you're trying to make.
But there's
nothing actually here for TT, but they're trying to force it. Ucal is getting taken down now. Care in some trouble. He will not have his stun up in time. And Hoya starting to snip away at the health bars of FPX. Fearness slowly but surely doing the dragon. This is soul for FPX as well.
What am I watching, Mazel? This is
I don't know.
The weirdest
it's a carousel
ping-pong.
pain.
This is one of the weirdest ping-pongs I've seen around Baron fights in some time. I think TT, like midway through that play, realized that Hacker was dead, that maybe they could get themselves a... Get like, this is like the 3rd straight minute of trying to kill this Baron.
Nymaera, they're doing it again. Ah! All right, well, Huanfeng now trying to melt it down. They try to get the re-engage on a hacker. That didn't work out the last time he tried to do it. They don't have anything much more. The Moonlight Vigil is not available. The damage is not there. Beichuan out of the pit now, perfectly fished out of is the Baron for FPX. Can they make this happen? Beichuan wants to go over the wall. He's waiting. He's on Lwx. They don't get the damage. FPX, they should take this fight wholly. Oh my god, they got a lot of damage though in the Baron pit. Hackers trying to take down the Baron. Fearness is in the middle of everyone with that Death Realm having been popped. And Huanfeng left down again. Where is your team, TT? As they no longer exist here on the Rift.
That was some of the weirdest passage of Baron plays I have ever seen. I don't even know where to start on this. It started with TT trying to bait, trying to play around whatever they could do with the Baron damage, trying to burn things down. But TT, once again, they don't know whether they're playing for the turn or finishing the Baron. And in the midst of that indecision, FPX really finding some ways to make things really awkward. See the Lwx on that Zeri, very able to get over these walls, find the pocket of space to do damage in. Lwx, this time on the Zeri, finding much easier time to impact this game compared to that first game. At least there's a turnaround to kill Zeri after this point, since he's not immediately ready and available to keep pushing in waves. But gold lead over to FPX. TT in the position. You okay there, Beichuan?
Oh, he lost the smite fight. We'll see Fearness though engaged on Ultra Shock laser to 3 members. He's knocked back as well, and now Ucal, he's in a little bit of trouble. Hoya has gotten 1. They're under tower. They're finding Lwx. Where are they? Lightning crash, and it falls all over TT as 2 kills go to Lwx, and what a way to do it.
Lwx is given just a moment, an inch of space to do some turnaround damage, and he makes the most of it. FPX, they have had to fight tooth and nail for their victories in this split. 1-8 in series, -12, -13 now in game score. But given the advantage, trying to find some way to close this out.
Another Cyclone up. Huanfeng trying to put in some AoE here, but my God, is Lwx so scary on those 3 items. They got a tier 2, they're pushing Care in the top side, and this comp is just working for FPX. We said don't get ran over in the early game, and Care, Lwx, they will carry you. Well, we're getting that.
Yeah, Lwx and Fearness finding a much easier time in this second game to actually get involved in the game. And TT, if the Baron players weren't obvious enough about this feels like desperation. It really feels like desperation. A really good death's grasp from the Mordekaiser going to pull everyone away from him by a little bit of space. And at this point, I just got to wonder, if you just spend 1 second autoing that turret to the side of you, maybe that extra coverage damage doesn't end up becoming a real backbiter in that play. Now Lwx going to walk back up onto the map, extra items, stopwatch inbound.
What?
TT caught out again.
Okay, well, Beichuan, I just feel like we've gotten a change up of shoes here. Like, it's TT that just seem like chickens with their heads cut off at this point. They're running around getting caught out constantly. Hoya maybe wanting to get caught out here. He's got the Realm of Death used on him. Has Ucal and xinliu with Huanfeng coming with red and white. Maybe they want to take this fight as well. Over the wall goes Hoya. He has the need a ward pop. He's healing up so much on Hacker. Hacker finds the 1v1. No, he can't. Huanfeng is caught on the other side. Hoya's trying to survive, but Huanfeng's already down. And FPX just keep taking fights over and over, and the desperation reeks from TT.
They just can't help themselves. TT, they throw themselves into the lion's den yet again. And waiting Phoenix for them. Don't know why they're in the lion's den. Either way, find themselves in a very good space. They find themselves with so many members of the enemy team down that FPS can walk towards these inhibitors, take down the inhibitor turrets. Not sure they can finish the game. Respawns will come through, but this should be the fight which really sees them through into a game victory at this point. Soul taken, double inhibitors taken.
What a comeback from FPX here in this game 2. After that game 1 just looked really rough on all accounts, it felt like, with a lot of very questionable decisions coming through. And now they forced that into TT, it feels like. And I think this competition does them wonders. I love to see that Fearness adaptation with the Mordekaiser topside try to deny some of this and the pick out potential. But it really is Lwx coming alive on the Zeri. Not the Lucian Nami that we got last time. It is this Zeri, the late game hyper scary, at least at this point, because he is on 4 items now.
And, you know, you compare that over to Huanfeng, who has just never really managed to get ahead in this game. Picked into that Aphelios Nautilus, maybe trying to find some of those consistent fights which we've known them to be able to initiate on a whim throughout League of Legends history. The last couple of seasons, they've been so good at that. Heading towards an Elder in 30 seconds. TT, I mean, one of the great things about the late game, if it gets late enough, doesn't matter how far behind you are, an Elder steal can do you so much good. Need to steal away from this bot lane. The Ucal fall way out of position, looking up to teleport away. Is there any cancels?
Should make it out, actually.
Cancel?
Oh, no. Hacker cancels the last second. That's a nice little flash, though. See if he'll be able to get out of this one, as I don't think there's much to save you today. Hacker should be able to chase him. Actually decides to pull off as the Elder Dragon is spawning. Care is caught.
He doesn't have flash.
xinliu goes wide, and the engage has not been enough. They found the polymorph on Huanfeng. Moonlight Vigil onto everybody, but it's not enough because a lightning crash comes right back to it. And where is your 200 years now?
That time has run out. FPX once again taking fight after fight. Hoya, Ucal not in position to help the rest of their team as they try and make that pick onto Care. And FPX, credit to them, sees the day, sees the opportunities given to them, will see themselves to a game 3.
They will not go down 0-2 any longer here, back to back. And they had that one win against LGD. They'll potentially get that one more here against FPX's opponents of TT. We'll see if they can actually take down this last tower. The cast comes through. Hoya taking up a decent amount here. It has the rest of the team coming alive. He's in the death round though. FPX having a little bit of struggle putting the finishing touches here.
The Ocean Soul gives them a lot more HP to play around. Hook just misses, but Huanfeng's alive again.
That's a desperate ult. Lwx just flashed it at it and says, what you got, bro? You cannot step to this FPX roster. They're too big, too strong, and too darn sick as TT ain't got nothing left in this game, too.
Nexus Falls, game 3 on its way to your screens after this, but I don't know where to start with this, because yes, I think that FPX, their draft gave them a lot more to play around. One of the things that we talked about in game 1 was, felt like there was a real obligation to play through the Lucian Nami at one item, get Lwx ahead of the game, get him killing people in mid lane, dash it forward. Second game, taking pressure off from Lwx in the early game to say, look, just hit 2 items, just hit 3 items. That'll be where it really comes around for you. That felt like a big change. Fearness as well, having a more interactive matchup, picking in the Mordekaiser, only the second of the LPL that we've seen in spring so far, brought a breath of fresh air to what FPX wanted to do. That's the one side of it. The other side is, I have a new sleep paralysis demon, Mazel. It's TT at Baron. It scares me. I awake and I see it just like in the corner of the room, and I'm like, you've been here for 3 minutes. Why are you still there? Why are you still fighting?
It was literally just desperate, man. Like I don't think I've ever seen a team like just hover around that Baron over and over. And like I can see the idea, right? And maybe they were really banking on the fact that the soul was up. They're like, okay, well, FPX is gonna go for that soul for sure. Like they want that really bad. But the thing is, they're not on a time jump, right? Like they can take their time walking around the map and answering you. And that's where we get such stark differences from game 1 and game 2 from both these teams.
Yeah, so for me, seeing the idea, that's great, and you can see that going towards the Baron is the right play. And it was similar in game 1 again, right, where we saw kind of, you want to go towards this Baron to force a fight on your terms. What I think was a really difficult thing to see, though, from TT is that it felt like different members of the team wanted to do different things when it came to that kind of real clutch flip, where you're either going for the finish, particularly in that game that we just saw in game 2. You have an Aphelios, which has really good Baron damage if you have the right kind of weapons available to you, and a Gwen, also incredible at killing Baron too.
The needles.
And they didn't really ever get to get everyone on the Baron at the same time to have all of their DPS in the right place to finish that. And even with that, they looked for turns anyway, and they didn't do that consistently as well. You had half the people staying on the Baron, half the people going elsewhere. Somehow Aphelios getting ulted by the Mordekaiser because they were indecisive with that. And that's why Fearness actually had pretty high damage numbers. Mordekaiser can sometimes struggle to get them, but between him, Care, and Lwx, team fights looked really good from FPX in this game.
And that's where this comp from TT was a little bit questionable for me in terms of, yes, I like the flexibility, giving Ucal the Gragas. Hoya on the Gwen, trying to give him some carry potential up there. We've seen him do it time and time again, right? But it felt like the TT strat in game number 1 was just what they should kind of approach in these games where they want to control and they want to take out these later game team fights. And yes, the Aphelios does have that big damage number right there next to his name, but it was a very different aspect where the Zeri is just Zeri. There's also a big number
right there on his name as well. 1 in 7 deaths. That's the other thing there. Because I have to say, I don't mind the composition from TT. I do mind it if you don't know how to accelerate Huanfeng on this Aphelios, though. Aphelios
they left
needs
him
to be
open
ahead in a game. I mean, the Aphelios is there. Like, I mean,
he got caught like 3 times, but the rest of the team was just like walking away from it. It's like, well, sorry, Huanfeng, you don't got any more movement abilities.
But even before that, right? They weren't playing through the very early levels through bot lane, which you can do against the Lulu lane. The Nautilus can force that fight. They never really found a way to get jungle involved in there. They didn't manage to get the Herald into his lane. They didn't get him a lot of turret plays. They didn't manage to get dives off in the way they did in the first game as well. Lots of things could have gone better in execution. Maybe they have to make things simpler for themselves. Maybe they take themselves blue side and they take themselves the very first pick if that's going to be the deciding